Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's webinar with Deepblocks. My name is Michael Cavon. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Deepblocks, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us this week as we explore the Bronx in New York City. We're going to be seeking development opportunities, going through various sites and parcels to select a site that meets our criteria. And essentially, we're going to be looking for sites that meet criteria for multifamily development. Upon finding the proper site, we're going to then optimize that site and try to see what is the best development play and the most optimal outcome for that development on that site in the Bronx, New York. Before we get started, I'm going to give a few more minutes to let some more people jump on and join us. If at any time you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the chat or reach out to me. If you have any questions when the webinar is over, please feel free to reach out to me at michael@deepblocks.com, and I will answer any questions you might have. We can also set up one-on-one demos to go through the product and maybe cater it more to your needs if you want to learn a little bit more or go through different functionalities. So again, please feel free to reach out to me at michael@deepblocks.com. Now at this moment, I'm going to jump on and show you our website just to see some of the different parts of our site that are extremely resourceful and very helpful in using our software and best understanding the key functionalities of Deepblocks. So here we are at deepblocks.com. You'll notice we're here on this represents all the cities that we have zoning in, as well as all the cities we have parcel level data in. We are currently in 43 cities throughout the country with zoning data and over 1,000 plus cities with parcel level data. We're going to be adding another 57 cities very shortly throughout the Q3 into the end of the year. And we'll be at 100 cities with zoning data. And again, as I mentioned, we're over 1,000 plus cities with parcel level data. In addition to that, we also have market intelligence and market data, including demographic data, market rates, and additional data sets that you can apply using our map layers to really truly understand the various marketplaces throughout the country. We have opportunity zones as well. So all those are represented throughout the entire country. So we converge all these different data sets into one centralized software, one location, allowing you to easily streamline the process and truly understand and make it a more efficient decision in best deciding what is the most optimal play for your development project. So this is our cities. We also have our webinar section. Here you can see all our previous webinars that we upload from previous weeks. And in addition, we have our tutorial section, 60-second clips kind of demonstrating all the key functionalities of the software, and just nice, again, very resourceful page to kind of help you navigate through the software and best understand the key components of our product. Lastly, we have our pricing. Right now we're at $18,000 per year. Currently, you can be grandfathered in at that pricing at $18,000 per year. We will be only increasing the pricing as we continue to add more cities. We'll probably be at $27,000, $36,000 as we kind of near the end of the year and continue to add more cities with zoning data. So this is a good time to get in. Again, you'll be grandfathered in at the $18,000 per year, and you'll be locked in at that price for life. So with that being said, we can get ourselves started, and we're going to jump into the Bronx, New York. Here's my dashboard, kind of where we store all our projects here at Deepblocks. And just to best understand how Deepblocks works, the software is kind of broken into two interfaces. We have our market scanner and our search engine, where you can go through thousands and thousands of parcels and refine your search to kind of locate the best parcel based on your criteria, based on unit density, based on FAR. If you're looking for vacant land, again, there's various different sets of criteria that you can activate and narrow those thousands and thousands of parcels just to a handful in a matter of seconds. So again, we're expediting that process. You're seeing about 90% of time saving using our software to go through site selection. Upon selecting that site, you then go into preliminary underwriting. You do a feasibility analysis and what if scenarios and go through various different types of project uses and again, optimize that particular site based on your development needs. So if you want to develop multifamily, retail, office, mixed use, whatever it may be, the Explorer interface, or that back-end interface, allows you to go through various scenarios and truly, again, optimize that most, bring that highest return on cost project for your particular needs. And we do a 1 year back of the envelope return on cost. So it's a very high level, but again, just allows you to really assess what makes the most sense for a particular site. And instead of going using consultants and hiring architects, I mean, that process can take weeks, sometimes into months. You can do this in a matter of minutes using our software. All right, so with that being said, I'm going to search the Bronx, New York. Kind of go, and I'm going to go through the different steps how I like to use a software from a macro level view down to a micro level view and really understand this particular marketplace and identify sites that, again, are meeting my criteria for this particular example. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a multifamily development play. So I'm going to look for the site that makes the most sense in regards to multifamily. Before we kind of really hone in on this particular site and the various parcels, which you can see are outlined in blue, I'm going to kind of do is I'm going to zoom out, and again, we're going to do a very bird's eye or macro level view and truly understand the market and what we kind of see here in the Bronx, New York. So just to kind of get a good understanding of our software, we have various panels, and they all serve different functionalities. We have our tools here. We have our market scanner, which I'll show you shortly. Upon selecting a site, we show the property info, which includes all the zoning information. But one of the first things I'm going to demonstrate right now is our map layers. Over here to the right side, we have various map layers. You can see we have general, people, residential, hotel, office, retail, and industrial tabs, which all display specific types of information to really, again, help you best understand a particular market. For this particular example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the buildable area ratio here in the Bronx, New York. What buildable area ratio does, it represents project density and kind of gives you an idea of where kind of where the trends are for a particular area, where we're seeing more activity versus other locations. So, and any information that's in the map layers is represented in our map legend underneath the market scanner. So you kind of get an idea and understand how that data is sourced and how that data is represented. So as you can see, as I turn this on, this buildable area ratio, the dark red kind of represents where there's kind of the density hub of sorts, and where there's pockets of interest, and where construction or development is trending. So, and it goes basically from hot red down to the yellow. So we see in this particular area of the Bronx, there's some good development trends going on here, and something we might want to focus in on. Additionally, we can also look at opportunity zones to kind of see where there might be some tax incentives in this particular part of New York. Again, we can turn this on. So as you can notice, here's all the opportunity zones, which are highlighted in yellow. I can turn the buildable area on, and we can kind of see them overlay one another and kind of get an idea of where that density is, as well as the opportunity zone. So this could be a good area of interest for possible development. So I'm going to kind of focus my attention here on this part of the Bronx and kind of start zooming in and get more of a micro level, and we'll start to go through the various parcels to scan and see what site makes the most sense for my multifamily development play. With that being said, I'm going to start to kind of zoom in, and we're going to focus in on that particular part of the Bronx. You'll notice it's a little bit north of the Yankee Stadium. Another option I like to always turn on is the satellite view, which kind of gives you a nice understanding of the surroundings and what we're kind of looking at as we begin to do our market scan, and again, start going through the various parcels to locate a parcel that is the most optimal for our particular project. All right, so as that loads, as I mentioned, here's Yankee Stadium down here at the bottom of my screen. I'm going to continue to scroll in until we start to see the parcels appear. Once those parcels appear, we can begin to do our search, use the search engine, and perform our scanning of all the sites and various parcels to then refine that criteria and refine our results, and again, locate the parcel that makes the most sense for what we're trying to develop. So just to keep in mind, I'm using Google Chrome. Google Chrome we recommend using Google Chrome. I currently have my screen at 80%. The reason I have it at such a zoomed out is because it allows me to capture as many parcels as possible. The more parcels we can capture, the better we can scan the market and truly understand all the different sites in a potential marketplace. So as you notice, we have as I mentioned, all the parcels are outlined in blue. And now we kind of can go into our market scanner and start entering different types of criteria. Before I begin entering certain criteria, I want to just give you an idea of all the parcels in this particular part of the Bronx in my viewport. We're looking at about 2,800 parcels total. And you'll see in just in a matter of minutes, we'll get that down to just a handful. So from the first things I'm going to be looking for to see what kind of vacant land we have here in this part of the Bronx. By simply putting zeros into this existing building area slider, we will learn how many parcels are vacant. We're getting 197 parcels matching that are vacant land. And one of the cool little features we have with Deepblocks, you can export this out to a CSV file. We'll give you a list of all the properties that do match into this CSV file, along with about 15 columns of key information tied to those parcels. So additionally, I'm going to start kind of getting an idea of what's zoned for certain residential use so we can activate the units allowed. So we're looking at 154 parcels that are matched that are zoned for residential use as well as on vacant land. And then we're just going to kind of continue to refine these search results. Let's see what's zoned for 50 and more units. We're down to 48. I'm going to try to see what is zoned for 100 units and more, down to 19. And lastly, I'm kind of going to be looking for 100. My goal is to find something where I can do 150 units or more. We're down to 12. So again, within minutes, we went from thousands and thousands of parcels just to a handful. Now we're looking at 12 parcels matching in this part of the Bronx that are zoned for 150 units minimum, and it's vacant land. So kind of next step is kind of continue to zoom in and really understand particular parts of the Bronx. I'm going to activate that opportunity zone again and just kind of get an idea. We have one parcel here in the opportunity zone, and then we have a couple more just outside of it. Another key layer I like to always turn on is that median income, just to get an idea of what the income is in these particular areas. So we're looking at 34,000 and 21,000 and 28,000. Over here might be a little bit better based on I'm trying to look for more of affordable housing, multifamily play. So this could be a good option over here to the right, even though it's outside the opportunity zone. But again, so I have a couple options right here within my viewport in this part of the Bronx that I'm going to kind of study these sites and start going to the feasibility analysis to see what makes the most sense as I continue to best understand this particular part of the Bronx. I'll turn the median income off for a second. And we're going to, again, kind of hone in a little bit more. Another thing I like to always use to just, again, understand the market a bit is we have our demographic trends. So with our trends, we can kind of get an idea and see the trends for population, employment population, as well as median gross rent and median household income. Let's scroll in a little bit more. We're going to focus in on these different trends and see the trend lines for these particular different census tracts. So let's see, we're going to be looking at, I believe, we're looking at 211. No, we're going to be looking at 219 and 199. I'm going to turn all these other ones off. We're going to study 211. Sorry, we're going to study 219 and 199. And for 219, turn off 199 for 1 second. 219 is on more of a decline. So that's over there for population. A little bit of an incline in terms of employment population. Lastly, I want to look at that income for this particular area just to see if the income is on the rise. We notice it's a little bit of a downtrend. So it could be a tough census tract to be analyzing it, but again, I want to kind of just get an idea of this might be, again, as I mentioned, a good affordable housing play in this particular site. Another cool feature we can show you is like, again, this property is actually in an opportunity zone. These two are not, but one thing I always like to also do is we can use the street view just to get an idea of what it actually exists on this particular property, just to confirm that it is vacant land. Kind of an industrial area. All right, so with that being said, I'm gonna do my next step and go into the preliminary underwriting for this particular site, and then we're gonna go into the back end interface of Deepblocks and work on that feasibility study. So as I mentioned, we're gonna do multifamily. As you can see, it pre-populates with the FAR. And as I hit continue right now, what's being created is our 3D model, and all the assumptions are being entered into the formula that we can now adjust and kind of again optimize this particular site and see what the most optimal play is for this particular property. Again, as I mentioned, I'm going to do multifamily, and in this backend interface, as the 3D model is produced, kind of going through the panels again, we have our tool set over here. And one of the great things about Deepblocks is that you can copy the project. You can also share with other users who also have licenses with Deepblocks. And what that allows you to do is go through various iterations of a particular site or other sites and just, again, compare notes. You can export out when you're finished going through the feasibility study to a PDF file. You get a 4-page report that basically gives you a nice breakdown and complete report of that particular site, as well as what can be built on that site and what the zoning is, as well as the 1 year back at the envelope return on cost. So, and if you go through different projects and you want to look at multifamily, you want to look at multifamily retail office, whatever it may be, you can then create these different projects, export them out to the PDF, and then kind of compare those reports with your colleagues just to see what makes the most sense in optimizing this particular site. So one of the first things I like to always do when I first begin my feasibility study, I'm going to put this back to this grid view for a second. And we're going to look at the property info. So this is the same info that we were just looking at in the previous interface, and it kind of breaks down the demographics, some key building information. But again, the key part of this property info is the zoning information and what we are allowed to do on this particular property. You can see the FAR, number of floors, uses allowed. One of the first things I like to look at is parking by use. We have group parking of 40% of total units. So what I like to first do is go into our assumptions. We're going to adjust our parking, 0.4. You'll see that it automatically puts that parking in right below in that gray area. Now, another thing I'm going to adjust real quickly is the units allowed, where it's allowed in 163. So with 163 units, you'll see we get about 1 floor of parking, a little bit into the 2nd floor. And then we have roughly about 16 floors at the moment. And one of the next things we can start to do is now we just start to, the whole concept of Deepblocks is just to manipulate this model and adjust it to get this ROC as high as possible. So one of the first things upon fixing the parking and entering certain constraints for parking, as well as the multifamily units allowed, we can kind of start going into gross buildable, as well as the amenities, and play with those numbers as well. We also can look at the setbacks. So the setbacks is probably kind of my next part of the formula that I want to enter in as I adjust this building. And we'll see what the setbacks are right here. We have a secondary front residential 0 feet, side 0 feet, and the rear is 30 feet. So with that, we can go into our setback mode and enter unique setbacks for each side. So we can make this A, and we can leave everything else at B based on what the setbacks need to be. We'll exit the setback mode. Now we're going to adjust these setbacks accordingly. Just so you can, I always like to kind of turn the screen to get a good angle of the model so I can really understand and see changes in the building as I adjust the model. I'm going to leave ground floor alone, but we're going to adjust from the 2nd floor up. All right, you can see that now we kind of have a multifamily sitting right on top of the garage. Now, considering the building's a little bit too high, I'm going to adjust the size of the units. Being that it's New York, we might be able to get away with 2 bedrooms at 550 square feet. You can see now we're down to about 19 floors. Maybe amenities, we drop down. We're not going to have any amenities in this building. So now we're looking at about 18 floors. Maybe go a little bit smaller than 550 square feet. We go down to 535 square feet. And as you can notice, we'll see that we have a nice multifamily building sitting on this with 11.6% ROC. And this kind of just gives you an idea of how you can go through the assumptions, begin to adjust it to work this ROC, maybe 2570, just to get an understanding of what values are here. Everything's pre-populated with sub-market rates. We are using our machine learning to bring you a very current rates based on this particular area. But we always leave everything up to you to adjust, and we give you that flexibility to change it, be it that you might be able to get a little bit more money than 2570, or a little, maybe it's a little less, but again, depending on the particular project. For this, maybe we're only at about 2,000 a month, and we're looking at about a 9% ROC. However, we could go into the project costs and maybe adjust these numbers a little bit. Maybe we get the property for 2.1 million. Again, we can continue to adjust. We can say the multifamily hard cost, maybe we'll get it for $165 a square foot, parking 28. So again, like the whole concept is to go through these various assumptions, adjust as needed. And obviously we're trying to put in the most realistic numbers that make sense for our project. And we have our KPIs automatically updating as we adjust these different figures. Additionally, we have our return analysis, which kind of gives you back of the envelope, again, the 1 year return on cost. You'll see the breakdown of financial figures here, but then you go into your assumptions tab and you really get a nice detailed look of all the different information that's automatically updated as you continue to update, as you define the building and enter in these assumptions. So we have your property info, the building info, all the way down to your project cost. And lastly, as I mentioned, you can do a PDF report. We can export this out to a 4-page PDF file. And again, it's a great report to share with your colleagues and your coworkers to kind of understand this particular project and see if this makes the most sense as a site, as well as this is the most optimal play for this particular site. So here, and you can upload your own cover image for this particular report. You could upload your logo, change the colors of the report, as well as adjust the summary. You'll see the property info, the zoning summary, and the stacking plan of this particular property. And then you see these demographic trends that kind of give you an idea of this particular marketplace in the Bronx. And then lastly, we see this 1 year back of the envelope return on cost breakdown of all the financials and different key assumptions tied to the property. Now, just to kind of go through other functionalities you can use to, again, advance this particular site. So as I mentioned, we're doing a multifamily play here. Maybe we want to see if we can do add some retail to the bottom of this, as long as it's zoned for retail. I believe it is. So we can, if it's zoned for retail, we can just, again, we can apply. And just to give you, just to show you how this works, you simply can add retail right here. Actually, before I do that, you can actually copy the project. I'm just going to leave it as copy. We'll duplicate this project. So now we have 2 different iterations of this project, the one being the multifamily play we just went through. And now I'm going to add a little bit of retail into this particular project. And we're going to go through the scenario with some retail in it. And we can see, as you see, automatically by adding retail, our ROC jumps up to 10.4%. We can now go into the assumptions first. We got to adjust the parking for the retail. So again, you go to your property info. We could look at the parking by use for retail, which is 1 space per 1,000. I'm going to put 1 space in here. So add that parking for you. Now we can go in the retail assumptions and start adjusting the net leasable. Maybe we can get 5,000 square feet for this particular play. Maybe for lease income, we can get 68. Again, you'll see the ROC continue to incline and increase based on our adjusting of these assumptions. We can go on the project cost side, work on the hard costs as well for retail. We're at $83 per square foot. Maybe we can do it for $75 per square foot. And again, it helps that ROC slightly. But as you can see, by just quickly clicking the retail button, that adds a nice this layer and this use of this retail use in that orange. And you start to work on this particular project in this iteration with multifamily and retail. So, and then again, you can go to that return analysis section. We can export this out, generate a PDF report. Now we have 2 different potential projects for this particular site, one being multifamily and the other one being multifamily with retail. So again, just shows you the flexibility and the power of the software of what you can quickly accomplish and understand what makes sense on this particular site. Again, it can also go the other way. Maybe you feel this site doesn't make sense based on what you're trying to produce, and the ROC is, despite the ROC being good, but maybe this site's not really an optimal play. Again, the whole concept here is to go through these iterations in an efficient and effective way and come to a decision. And again, share these notes with and these reports with your colleagues or investors, and say, here are our options. Here are all the sites based on our criteria. And obviously, once you have that certain formula in place, you can go through all the different cities that we have zoning in. Again, we're going to be in 100 cities with zoning, and really go and use the software at scale and really understand and go through these different potential sites that have the opportunity to develop on in very, very fast pace. And again, as I mentioned, it's not only about speed, it's also about effectiveness. And we're just seeing the efficiency increase quite a bit by using our software, and it's just been extremely, it's a very robust software, and it's been extremely impactful. I think our clients have been so super, extremely satisfied with the use of Deepblocks. And again, their ability to just go through this process that's used to be so fragmented, so slow, and with our software, we're just streamlining it and really making it a little bit easier. Software is very intuitive, extremely interactive, and as you can see, very user friendly. It's relatively straightforward, and just gives you that flexibility to really accomplish quite a bit in a pretty short amount of time, from again site selection down to optimizing that particular site with different development plays. So with that being said, just to recap a little, we kind of visited Bronx, New York, looked at the marketplace, went through kind of the southern part of the Bronx near Yankee Stadium. We found a few sites within an opportunity zone as well as right outside that opportunity zone. One kind of met more of my criteria for an affordable housing play. I selected that site, and we worked on a multifamily play as well as a multifamily retail, just to kind of get an idea of which one made more sense. We went through and adjusted some of the assumptions just so we could see that ROC increased quite a bit. We adjusted gross buildable, we adjusted the income, the cost assumptions as well, to try to produce the most optimal play for this particular site. So, just exemplifies how using Deepblocks, we can go through thousands and thousands of parcels, and quickly find a handful of parcels that meet our search criteria. And then we use the Explorer interface, which we're looking at right now, that's 3D modeling, and kind of go through these feasibility studies and feasibility analysis, and truly understand what makes the most sense for this particular site. And again, try to come to that conclusion. Does it make sense to build on this site? Does it make sense to work with or put our resources here and focus our attention on this particular site? And if not, we go back to the search engine, and we go to look at all the other sites that presented itself based on the criteria we entered. So again, you see the efficiency with the software to just go through different, various sites and iterations of a site and truly come to that conclusion. But again, do appreciate your time and joining us this week. Again, if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to reach out to me, Michael at deepblocks.com. I'd be glad to get on a one-on-one demo with you, or a call to explore a bit further what might suit your needs. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and have a great afternoon. Take care.